Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate all of the stuff that you're doing out there, all the work that's happening, and as you are inspiring your worlds. You are on the new normal mindset where we are hurdling adversity, amputating fear, embracing a new normal mindset to win life's medals. We have fantastic guests each and every week. Well, actually, probably about every other week right now. And we have another great guest that's going to be on today. So as you're getting your coffee, as you're up and about, please make sure I know where you're coming in from, where you're chatting in from. I want to know. Put in the comment section box. My box is actually covered up right now, but I'm looking at it. If you see me looking down here, I'm looking at my comments box. And then if you see me down here, I'm kind of looking at my show notes. But we have a great guest who's going to be on today, and I just wanted to say that. I thank you so much for being on this on this show and just always supporting it with your comments. My name is John Register, and I am a two-time two-sport Paralympic athlete, combat Army veteran, and a professional speaker now. I started the Paralympic Military Sport Program, which helped wounded, ill, and injured service members use sports as a tool for their rehabilitation. And this whole podcast is really about introducing you to people who have overcome some type of adversity, amputated fear, embraced a new normal mindset to win the medals that are in their lives. I see Samya is on, the wonderful Samya. Thank you for coming in from Louisville, Kentucky. So I really appreciate you, Samya. Appreciate you being on this morning as well. Um, so my story is really like this rags to riches riches to rags to riches storyline, that kind of that story archetype, or kind of overcoming the monster if you're looking at it from that standpoint. And what I mean by that is being a world class athlete, going to a couple of Olympic trials, having an injury to my left leg when I served in the United States Army, which resulted in this amputation, and then getting back to a Paralympic silver medal. And so I share that because not everybody, right's going to win a silver medal or do something like that, but we all have something that we overcome in our lives, whether it's something physical or something mental or some type of trauma that we go through. And then we want to introduce people to individuals that have done likewise, whether it's in their careers or in their lives as well. So we got, let's see here, we got Susan from VA. Thank you, Balla on a Budget TV. What's up? You're gonna really love our guest today, Susan. So thank you for being on as well. Um, so I want to introduce you to our guest and really get into this because I think she has a lot to offer our community in the fact that we see one thing that's like the facade that we see on this screen, but we don't see what's behind the screen. We don't see what the real stories are, and a lot of times we make decisions based upon those facades that are out there. And so I wanted her to really come on to really explain what she does. So have you ever wondered what life is like as a TV personality? Are the lights, camera, and action, and all what is it all cracked up to what it's to be? Is it glitz and glam? Well, my guest today, she's going to share with us the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugliness behind being in front of the camera. As a professional communications coach, she believes that when you master the art of confident and impactful speaking, you become unstoppable. Uh, Using her proprietary GoTo Speaker method, trademarked, Kristy teaches individuals and corporate teams to craft clear and powerful messages and deliver them with purpose and passion. She has trained over 700 professionals across multiple industries, including medical, legal, the tech field, finance, nonprofits with organizations like HP, Nike, HomeSmart, Phoenix Children's Hospital, and Charles Schwab. I met her as I was finishing my keynote for a business group in the Phoenix area and found that we had such just a lot in common. And I just really wanted her on the show. Been trying to get her on for the past month. Her schedule's like crazy busy, like worse than mine. And so I really wanted to make sure that we got a chance to introduce. So please welcome to the New Normal Mindset podcast, multimedia journalist, anchor, and weather chief, the multi-Emmy Award nominee, the Duke Blue Devil, who always keeps her passport in one pocket and treats for a feisty, the fiery Norwich Terrier, Poppy Monsoon in the other, the one and only Kristy Siefkin. So thank you so much for being on, Kristy.
John, thank you for having me. That was a beautiful introduction, and I love that you threw Poppy Monsoon in at the end. She is my love, the love of my life, my little terrier. So want people to meet her, and so happy to have met you and to be here with you today because you are inspiring to everybody, and I love that you're sharing so many good stories, which to your earlier point, we don't necessarily hear in the media. So very happy to be here
Yeah.
with you today.
Well, thank you for that. And so I'll pop people's names in as they start coming in. And Samya and Susan from VA, if you have a question or a statement that you want to make, please put in the chat box. We'll make sure that we get to it as we go throughout the show today. Scott, let's start there. Because I think a lot of times in media we see so many of the negative stories, and like I was saying earlier, blood leads to headlines, and
Yeah,
why don't we write about airplanes landing and or the great things that are going on in communities? Why is that always the tail end story, as we say all the
right.
blood, dirt, and everything, and all of a sudden the last little piece, the last 30 seconds, oh, and we want to show you Poppy, the dog, right? uh,
You nailed
because
it.
dogs get out.
Poppy has been on TV, by the way. I made sure that during the pandemic, when I was broadcasting from home, she had a little appearance. We had other dog owners sending in photos of their dogs watching my
I love
dogs.
it.
So that was a little sweet moment, and it really brought to the forefront what you mentioned, John, that people are hungry for good news and for positivity. And we have a phrase in the industry: if it bleeds, it leads. And it's kind of a gross phrase, but it's the truth of it. Think of any newscast you watch, any radio show you tune into. It's the really difficult and often brutal stories that we start with, often for good purpose. If there is a mass shooting, if there is imminent danger in a community, you want people to know about that. You want them to be able to act, but there's a balance there. And I do agree with you that so many of those uplifting and really inspiring stories are those that get buried. At the end of a newscast, there's something called a kicker, which is that little story, the positive story that maybe it could be something silly, the 103-year-old grandma that goes skydiving on her birthday, but it also could be something really profound and uplifting. And as I made my way through a news career over a decade, I found more and more that's what I wanted to be a part of, was exactly what you're doing on this show, is bringing forth inspiring stories, positive stories. And I think that the general public's tolerance for kind of the negativity has lowered. When I was still full time in the industry, and I would meet somebody at a cocktail party or a birthday party, and they'd say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I would say, "Oh, I work in television, or I'm a news broadcaster." And you'd get kind of this, little bit of a cringe of, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know who you are. I don't watch the news. It's so depressing." First of all, never any expectation, CDF list celebrity. We don't expect that anybody knows who we are. But I said, I get it. If I would be retired, if I had $1 for every time somebody said, I just can't watch it because it's so negative, or because it really brings me down. So there is a shift I really feel going on, especially in social media, and a push to bring more positive stories, more inspiring stories to the forefront, because people, yes, they need to know what's going on, good, bad, and ugly in the community, but the good, I really think we should put more focus on.
I agree, and I don't make any apologies for stating, that to anyone. And
Right,
I said, if you want the negative stuff, you're not going to find it on this channel. I'm only going to be.
right.
I made a conscious decision to just uplift humanity, uplift people, it's not that I want to feel good about that. I just think that there needs to be a counter to all the negative
Yes.
things that are out there. And so we have, Patrick's coming in from New York City. All
Yeah.
right, I see NYC's
Hey,
in the
Patrick.
house. Patrick, thank you so much. If you have a question for Kristy, please type in the chat, and so I can see it there. I'm kind of watching the comments over here. In your reporting, you have always seemed to just have supported the community, from early on. And as you kind of walk through your career in news media, how have you kept that kind of through line, that thread line, even though you have to get some of these other negative stories out?
Yeah, it's certainly challenging. Within any newsroom, you do have the opportunity to pitch stories. So to say, hey, this is newsworthy, this is the research I've done. And I will say that generally speaking, I worked in environments where they were open to covering that, because the media has seen the shift. Okay, we need to have this balance. But a little fun fact for those who maybe didn't know me in my previous life, I started my career in the nonprofit space. And I really am, I every day of my life am grateful to my parents for instilling in me that importance of being a servant of the community, of taking care of those who can't take care of themselves. And so, with that kind of as a baseline, I always in the back of my mind knew there are so many great organizations, so many great people that are doing good work. Let's bring that to the forefront. And so when I even moved to Phoenix, Arizona back in 2012, I came from San Francisco Bay Area reporting there, then moved here. I made a point to try to connect with as many organizations as I could. And it won't surprise you, John, to hear that animal organizations were some of them, given my love for Miss Poppy Monsoon. And I had worked for Guide Dogs for the Blind, the nonprofit in the Bay Area, before I came into news. So I brought with me this great community of people who were also here. And then they introduced me to great people, and they introduced me to some other great people. And I started to see whether it was in the healthcare space, whether it was working with foster children, whether it was working with people who are in the engineering and technology space, who are adapting incredible equipment and technologies to help people. There was just a wealth of great stories. It was, in fact, easier for me to come up with those types of stories than the negative, just because it was fascinating to me. And then you see the value that one story can have. I had a couple of early 20 somethings who developed a company that essentially incentivized kids in inner city schools to be committed to school. They didn't have maybe the teacher support, or rather the parents support. They definitely had the teacher support. And I did a story with them. Oh, we've got an underwater photography story up here, which I'll get to. But these really inventive 20 somethings who came up with this app to help inner city school kids, they had one story which then led to venture capital funding in New York, because they were able to share that little clip. Now, did I do the story with that intention? No, but just having that little bit of a voice brought them some legitimacy. And so that's is where I saw the power of, yes, the more people who I can get in front of the camera to tell a positive story, the more I can empower them. And there's many ways to empower them, but that's certainly one of them. And that story, by the way, so fun. That was just a light, fun feature. Have you ever seen these shoots, John, where people jump in the water and they take a camera underneath? Sometimes it's
I've
like
never seen that. I just thought
no,
that this
no.
was like, what's this, the Little Mermaid going on here? I didn't know. I'm putting back up. There we go.
Well, I was a Little Mermaid for Halloween last year, so I'll send you that as a separate pic. Maybe I'll post it after the podcast. But
I
yeah,
love it.
that was one of the more flattering ones. Most of them were like kind of hair shoved up my nose and my hands across my face, and you're going, trying to get some air at the surface. But yeah, people do this for like engagement announcements, or they'll do photos with their whole family, with their kids, kind of a big smiling happy photo. Very cool, and harder to look cool in it than you think. Most of my
I've,
photos are pretty hilarious.
I'm a swimmer, so I know how hard it is to get that shot, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking a couple things. Number one, it was the reason what you just said about the last story, kind of the kind of fun story at the end. Um, the reason I hated the word inspiration, where I really didn't
Mhm.
like it, and the reason was because when I was running track for Arkansas, or for the Army, or
Yeah.
whatever, and when I was written about by a reporter, it was always on the sports page. After I
Right.
had my injury, I became the human interest story, and I was the
Interesting.
inspirational
Okay.
close. And I was like,
Mm.
man, put me on the sport. Why am I not in the sports section,
I'm
right?
still an athlete.
I'm still an athlete,
Yeah.
and so it was really tough for me to get past that.
Yeah.
There's some things that happen, and stuff. Now I embrace the word inspiration and
Right.
inspiring, and know it comes from the Latin word inspiro, to breathe life into, and so that's what
Yes.
I'm all about right now. But that was a challenge. But where I really wanted to ask you is, we see these the your through line on kind of service.
Mhm.
Why do you think that's important for people to have that passion of service to others, to counter whatever else that might be going on in their life?
I think, John, you can relate to this, as can so many people. When you are in a dark moment in your life, or a dark chapter in your life, there is no faster way to rise back up to a place of feeling full and feeling purposeful than to be of service to others, and to have the gratitude. And I have been incredibly fortunate in my life and had so many things go smoothly, but I've had bumps as well, as anybody has. Each have our own challenges, and when you take that moment to say, okay, this is all that is right in my life, and I can use it to help support someone else that has maybe a lot of darkness in their life right now or is suffering in their life. For me, that just brings tremendous fulfillment. And it also is an element of just expanding your world. I mean, it is selfishly to get to meet so many interesting people and learn the stories of these great organizations and be a part of the work they're doing. That's also fun. It broadens your horizon of what's out there in the world and kind of takes you out of your little bubble, where sometimes if we are having a tough time, we can kind of turn inward, and the focus is on yourself naturally. As soon as you turn it outward, it kind of reminds you, okay, what's important to me in the big picture? Maybe I'm dealing with this thing right now, but long game, end of my life, what do I want to leave as a legacy? What is the impact I want to have? And you can do that in little ways. It doesn't have to be, a huge, multi-part TV series you develop. It can be in small ways you incorporate it throughout your day. And that's, as you mentioned, when we first met and connected on so many fronts, I just immediately felt and saw in you that desire and purpose and passion as well. There we are with getting to hold the silver medal. I didn't know that your medal had its own page until the other day, John. That it's like
It has
it
its
has
own
its own
page.
Instagram page.
Correct. It's let me 2K.
I didn't know I could bite it. I would have gotten that photo too.
That's right. A lot of people have, it's all dinged up now. So
I hope you've got some Lysol wipes there to kind of clean
absolutely,
it up
absolutely.
afterward.
We wipe it down every day.
I love that. It was a wonderful kickoff to learning more about you and what you're doing, and every day, every time that you're bringing somebody on this show, you're doing that. You're bringing light to somebody's life. So I just want to remind you of that. I hope you know that.
Well, well, thank you. I mean, it's purposeful. I'm trying to do that. I measure. I call it echo moments. Is how I measure
Mm,
success for me, and it's a longer um, time span for an echo moment to happen. So ripples go out from us. So somebody that's listening
yeah.
right now, whether it's Samya or Susan or Patrick, the ripples will go out in their communities in their world. That's why I say inspire your world, because you have your world that you can inspire. I have mine, and the ripples can go out
Yes.
from there. But what comes back when ripples hit something is an echo moment. So dolphins in the water, they
Mhm,
send out echolocation that comes back to them. People who are blind, like you're talking about the
mhm.
dogs and
Yeah.
that are leading the blind, they have echolocation too, so
Yeah.
they can click and they can hear how large or small a room is. They can actually walk around objects because their ears become their
Yes.
eyes, and it's fascinating to watch. And we all have that skill that we can develop. If we lose a sense, we begin to another sense is heightened
Heighten
for
another.
us.
Yeah.
So then the echolocation for us in our lives is when we say something out and it comes back to us by someone who has never even seen us or met us,
Yes.
and they say your message, whatever that you said, whatever it was that went out, impacted me in such a way that I shifted the way I think and the way I do things,
Yes.
and I just want to come back and thank you for it. I just had one of those. They don't, like I said, they don't happen a lot for me, but they do. And
Share,
I just
please.
the last speech I did in Asheville, North Carolina, a woman came up to me and said that she was a ballet dancer. She had fell or something. I don't know what the accident was, but she
Mhm.
broke both of her femurs and she could no longer
Wow.
dance. And she used a wheelchair for a couple of years. And then she saw I don't know, a story on me or something where I was swimming, and she decided she would get in the pool and start swimming. And she went to college swimming. And I
That's
thought that was
fantastic.
fascinating. Yeah, and she shared
Yeah.
that with me. She said, "I saw you were on the program to come speak. I had to come and share this with you." And that's an echo moment, right? I would never have known
Yes.
somebody's life story like that. And that's what I think that we can do. Ball on a Budget says, "What inspired you to become a journalist, and do you have any causes that you are passionate about?" We just talked about some of our causes. However, that's my next question. So thank you, Patrick, for sharing that. Yeah.
Is Baller on a Budget a plant in this show, John?
No,
Like, ask
it's
her this
not. I'm not.
question next.
Patrick, no, yeah. Really, it's right. It's my next question. How to get it
I
going?
I love it. Well, I always, even from being a little kid, loved to to share and love to story tell. I was a shy child though. I had a small group of friends, but I always was a homebody. My parents will tell the stories of we'd go on vacation and we do one activity and I'd say, okay, I'm ready to go home now. Or I would just, sit at the door and cry and be like, let's go home. I liked being in that little bubble. And I think part of as an introvert, part of me getting out of that bubble was learning to be comfortable speaking and talking to people, and performing was a way to do that as well. We look at sometimes actors or people that are on TV and think, oh, they must be the most gregarious, outgoing people. A lot of them are very introverted or very turned inward, very reflective, and that was and is the case for me. So as I thought about how can I make an impact where I get to research, I'm a research nerd, I love that. How can I research and storytell together in a way that I can make a career and educate people and hopefully entertain them in the process? Journalism seemed like a great fit. And I had a chance. I was working for the Guide Dogs for the Blind organization when I had a scholarship opportunity. And I'd always thought, I really want to do this. I'm not sure. And then that kind of was the universe stepping in and saying, hey, go study this, go make it your new pursuit. And it's kind of it morphed over time as I left the full-time news industry and then left to launch my own business. It was carrying all that I'd learned in journalism and all that I'd learned from being in the community, hearing people's stories, hearing what resonates with people, hearing what puts people to sleep, to teach other people, you can be your own journalist, if you will. Your own brand is essentially what this is, the great space we live in, where anybody, you and I are doing it right now. We've got a camera, we've got a microphone. Anybody has the opportunity to develop a message and broadcast the message. You now no longer have to depend on working for a news station or working for a radio station, because you've got the power of it right here, no matter what your interest is.
Yeah, that has been fascinating to me, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the things I wanted to do was like be the Mike Tirico or who was the other one that did the Olympic Games. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head. But I wanted to be like the Mike Tirico for the Paralympic Games, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so Bob Costas, the other one I'm thinking
Bob
about.
Costas,
So
yes.
yeah, Bob Costas. So I was preparing and I'm doing my camera work. I'm at the end of end of the Paralympic trials. I'm interviewing athletes and helping them with their, kind of getting them practice while I'm getting practice. And I know some of the producing stuff, but never get the call. So instead of doing it, I did exactly what you said over the Olympic Games and Paralympic Games outside the United States Olympic and Paralympic Museum. I took my tripod, I set up my camera, I put a nice
Love it.
microphone on it, to wired it in, and, and then I just went. I started reading the headlines that were coming out of of either Tokyo or
Mhm.
in Beijing, and just doing it with my best announcer voice, and like you said, being
Which
enthusiastic
is
about
great.
it.
You've got a great voice, John.
Oh, thanks.
You're
And you
welcome.
too. Yeah, absolutely. Love
Thank
could
you.
listen to you all day. The so I just started doing it, and I can't tell you how many people said, "How was Tokyo? How was Beijing? That was fantastic. You know what you're putting out there." I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy cow! The
People are
power of it."
listening.
They're listening, and not only are they listening, that we can take, the action step is we don't have to wait for people to say yes to our dreams or yes to our vision. We can start turning it on right now and just make it happen. So the question I have for you is, how have you seen the media shift? I know you said a little bit about that, to get you to see, hey, I can get out there and teach other people how to do this.
It's a great question, and you were the perfect example of what I'm seeing again and again. We have, whether you are a dancer or you're a lineman or you're a doctor, you're a mom, a stay-at-home mom, you all have a wealth of knowledge. You are the expert within your space, and now that you can create your own channel, if you will, in many places, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, you can cultivate an audience and essentially become a messenger for that space and become an advocate for that space. So what I've seen in my company is a lot of individuals come that want to create their own brand. They say, hey, Kristy, I'm an expert in this space, but I really want to take it up a level. I want to be the person who's the professional speaker. They want to be you, John, right? I want to get on stages. I want to have my own podcast. I want to be able to shoot videos confidently and put them on my stream every week. And so, the little secret in all of this, as you know, is you don't have to go through the whole process that I went through. While it was very valuable and taught me a lot, you now have the opportunity to become that personality, to become that expert in this digital space, and kind of become the go-to person people think of. That's why I developed this program. I thought, what is it that people want? They want to be thought of as the go-to expert in their field. So I used all my knowledge from being a spokesperson for nonprofits, from working in TV news, from also doing sideline work. You'd appreciate this from the sports space, appearing on Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, taking all that knowledge and saying to people, hey, don't go invest, $40,000 to $80,000 in an education to do this. Let me teach you kind of the behind the scenes of how you can become that person. And it's exciting to watch people, especially who are never in a million years would think they'd be comfortable in front of a camera or on a stage, overcome those internal obstacles, overcome the self-limiting beliefs, really drive down into what is my message? What is it I want to really leave in the world? What's that positivity I want to bring in the world? And then they're getting to do it as a living and then inspiring other people to do the same thing. They say, hey, I saw this person who didn't have the official background or professional background showing up in all of these spaces. And I think that there will always be a place for news media. I think it's certainly needed. Just because I can pick up a phone and film myself doesn't mean that I have all of the details and are fact checked. That's where it becomes a little dicey, is in this world of what we call citizen journalism. You have to be careful. If it's an opinion show, or someone has, they're speaking to cardiology and they've been a cardiologist for 30 years, great. But you always, as a viewer, whether it's on TV or in this multimedia space, need to take in multiple sources and research those sources. Be a smart viewer, be a smart consumer, because the flip side of having all this accessibility is that a lot of information is out there. And as you well know, a lot of it is not correct. or it's spun. That happens in mainstream media, and it also happens in this space.
For sure. So I want to. There are lots of thoughts in my head right now, and I wish I'm trying to go over here and write everything down. These questions I have for you. I've seen, people will say, "Oh, I could never do that." I just speaking, just kind of just cringe. I just only want to do it. Don't
Right.
don't even put that. So, and then I see the difference on somebody will do a great video, but they won't hit the send button to actually let it release to the world,
Yeah.
right? And then I see people that they'll hit the send button, just like you said. I don't care if I got the facts right or not.
Yeah.
It's just gone. How do you manage and work people through that process of getting them, if they're shy to speak, if they really, they got a
Yeah.
message, they want to get it out, but I just don't feel comfortable sharing. Or they can do this, they can get their phone out, they can do
Mhm.
the message, but they won't hit the send button because they got to look perfect. uh
Right.
or versus, one that's just like, just doing it.
I love the
Going,
gestures. Blah, that there
"Blah."
is a lot of blah out there.
There's a
That's
lot of
for
blah
sure, John.
out there.
I picked working with introverts specifically because I know that pain. I've been in that space of, you feel
I'm an
self-conscious
introvert.
about it. You're not sure if what you're saying is of value. Are people going to judge what you're saying? And this as, someone who has served our country and someone who's been, a professional athlete. The level of performance that you expect of yourself often is way up here, and if you even deliver here, it still can be great and meaningful to a lot of people. So that's the first thing I would say, is we are our own worst enemies. We get in our heads, and I think there's a lot of pressure. You and I talked about this briefly before the show today, of for younger generations on the phone, you must orchestrate your life. It must look perfect. Your hair must be perfect. The home must be beautifully decorated. That's actually not what draws people in. What draws people in is the authenticity. And I tell people who are nervous speakers or nervous on camera, if you even connect with your audience and say, you know what, this is a big thing for me to do today. I'm nervous to be doing this. Is my first video, but I'm really passionate about banana slugs, or whatever your topic is. If you really are passionate about banana slugs or technology or fitness, health, if you drop the occasional or ah, or you glance off, or you have a little bit of a tick, the world's not going to hold it against you, because when you're speaking from that place of your heart, it really does come through. Now, that said, of course, people want to come through as polished as they can, understandably so. And the hardest thing to do is exactly what you need to do. It's to make the video and hit send, and to keep doing it for those who are on the shyer end of it. Because the more you practice it, it is just like being that little kid on the bike when you started, and you're kind of tipping one way on the handlebars, and you're pushing down on the left pedal, and you're so afraid you're going to fall. But getting out there every day and doing it, or whatever that activity is for you, if you're a in the physical space or the intellectual space, you just got to get the reps in, and make friends also with the camera. I just did a LinkedIn post about this, that anyone on LinkedIn, you're welcome to check out. When I started in my career and was in grad school and needed to get comfortable in front of a camera, I hadn't been in front of a camera. I would film myself just on my cell phone cooking dinner every night, and I would talk to my phone like I was on the Food Network. And I would talk about, I'm going to put in, this much of this herb, and this is where this, masala powder comes from. And let's talk about broccoli. Now, why is broccoli a great vegetable? What are the minerals? I mean, just ridiculousness that nobody would want to watch. But I just got used to kind of looking into that lens and speaking passionately about something. And that's what I recommend people do. Find a way to incorporate that practice every day in your life. So you're folding laundry, you're, helping your kids do homework, you're on a jog, and just get used to speaking to the camera and being comfortable with it. I think that's one of the best places to start.
It really is. And I think a lot of times we get a chance to see ourselves because we run it back and see how we're showing up. And then, oh, I didn't know I did that all the time. I didn't know I did that.
Yes,
You know, and it's really, and it's the hardest thing, as the speaker. I'm more comfortable doing it now because I realize it's getting better, and I think that's the whole thing, right? It's hard, what I mean, it's hard for me to watch myself, after
for
a
all of us, it
presentation.
is to this
It's like,
day. I still
what?
think, yeah, you don't look like yourself, you don't sound like yourself. You
No,
feel this even decades later. Yeah,
right? And I think that's the interesting thing is to accept and embrace just who you are and how you
yes,
show up and your gifting to the world, because there's no one else like you. And so that's how I
right.
always think about it. And the audience is there because they're trying to glean some information that's going to be beneficial for their
Yeah,
life. And so if I'm nervous about that, yeah, I want to care. But if I'm nervous about that, then I'm really making it about me and not about the audience. And so I want them to have what they need. So thank you for that. That's really great
of
comment. I'm trying to
course.
see. Okay, Samya has something that she just put in here. Samya, you wrote a book. All right. I love the
Ah,
thoughts, Christy.
yes, I love
I am
working with
passionate.
authors. Yes,
Yeah, she's fantastic. She said, I'm passionate about a lot of things that involve people. I am an introvert too, and I've learned to be comfortable speaking and interacting with many people. You are so
excellent.
good, and I love listening to you talk. Thank you for sharing your life
Oh,
experience. And I want to just,
thank you,
Samya is just a
Samia.
beautiful soul. And I wanted to
She is
read
a
that
beautiful
because
soul.
there's some people that are listening that won't be able to see that comment come up on the
Thank you
screen.
for
Uh,
that.
and another tip I always do that is in speaking, like when I'm on stage, if I have a quote
Yeah,
up, I will always read the quote or what's on the screen,
beautiful.
because there's some people that just can't see it. And so I just try to make it about everyone.
You made a
As you
good point there, John. Oh, sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt. I was
go
just
ahead,
going to
go
say,
ahead, no,
in
go
this
ahead.
case, make sure that you're focusing on that accessibility too, because you want to make sure you're serving all of your audience. And
Right,
historically, especially in this digital space, and I learned a lot about this when I was working for Guide Dogs for the Blind. Things are not built accessibly for everyone. So whether you're
right.
dealing with someone with your visuals that may have color blindness, or someone's not able to read what's on
That's
the
me.
screen, or is hard of hearing, yeah, there you go. Just make sure that you're showing up for everyone there, because you said they're there for you. They want to learn something, so make sure that they're getting it.
Fantastic. Okay, so you're a speaker coach now. You're doing the speaker and the I would say more like the media
Media,
professional and
yeah,
that as well. Um, would you share your methodology that you came up with to get
sure.
people to understand how they can do better?
Absolutely. It is all about what we've been talking about, coming through authentically. So that's kind of the baseline of this go-to speaker methodology, is not just for when you're giving an official speech on a stage. It's a conversation with your boss. It is going in and speaking to a group of coworkers in a boardroom. It's speaking to your colleagues that you're in a service club. It's even having a conversation with maybe your spouse. And it all starts with tapping into who you authentically are and making sure when you communicate, that is communicated. Because often we get fixated on what is the message, which is important, that's a part of it, but what is the message and how do I deliver it perfectly in that perfect way? So before we get to any of that, we start the base level, kind of step one. What is authentic about you? What is your expertise in your professional field if you're looking to become a speaker, a media personality, a podcast host, someone who makes videos? We start with that, kind of define your unique genius. And then I take you into all that I've learned over 20 years of spokesperson work and TV work and speaking work, to give you kind of the inside tips and tricks, how you can create a persuasive message, whether it is 2 seconds long, 2 minutes long, I should say, or you're giving an hour-long speech. So I won't give away those secrets because that's part of what you get to explore in the program, but I teach you how to do that for an in-person presentation, for a digital presentation. And it's not just, okay, I'm writing this speech for you, I'm writing this message for you. It's giving you the tools so that once we're done in our work together, you're armed to develop those messages professionally and personally. And then we go into recording you and getting you comfortable within this space, and then actually creating the collateral so that you have a little sizzle reel. You know about this as a professional speaker, but a sizzle reel demonstrating you speaking and you as an expert. So if you want to put that on your TikTok channel, great. If you want to shop it out to conferences, so that, say that you're a dentist and you always dreamed of being a keynote at your dentistry conference, you have that collateral to show them, not only do I know how to speak in a way where my intellectual genius shines through, but my personality and my authenticity shines through as well. It's very rewarding. I feel very, very grateful. I've had a chance to work with individuals, and then, as you mentioned, work with some companies as well, work with teams to teach them kind of an accelerated version of it. But the one-on-one is really where the magic happens. And you've experienced that as a speaker yourself, I'm sure, with many iterations of your messaging, over the years, and you're constantly tweaking it and changing it, and you authentically show up as
My
you.
God.
That's why I wanted to come talk to you at the end of the event where we met.
All this, and I'll tell people, you know how you were saying earlier, just to say, hey, this is my first time on, I'm the first person. I will
Mhm.
tell people when I'm on stage, I don't have this all the way baked out yet. Y'all need to help me try to
Yeah.
figure this, if this is the right thing. Am I going the
Be
right
patient.
direction here? Yeah. And it will be like a new concept I'm throwing out. And I might have the thought in the middle of the program, right? Said, I wonder if that's really true. And I've said it for a long time. I said, but I wonder if that's really true. And I'll say, you know what? Do you think that's really true? And I'll just ask the audience, right? And say,
I
because
love it.
y'all know you can cut through the BS. And so tell me,
Yeah.
do you think this is this right? Or how does it show up in your world? And so now we're into an engagement, an
A
authenticity and
conversation.
a conversation.
Yes.
And people were like, I can't believe you just did that on stage.
I
And
love
I said,
it.
well, yeah, it's just one of those amazing interactions. I'm always trying to be the facilitator of the brilliance that's
Mhm.
already in the room. So that's kind of one of my
Yes.
little the shticks I do.
That's
Somya's got
a great
some
tip for
things. She
people.
says, thanks to you, John and Christy, but she has a question. Just curious, and I want to know, when you are presenting to a lot of introverts who are shy to ask, how do you connect and pull them out to get comfortable and connect with you?
Great question. And it fits perfectly into what John just mentioned. So, one of the easiest ways, and this is a technique you can employ when you're crafting your messages, one of the easiest ways to engage people is to ask questions, and ask them because you really want to know the answer, not just the kind of old, show of hands or who has blah, blah, blah. We've all seen that in a speech where somebody's trying to engage, but it's just kind of like, oh, I read this in a book somewhere that I should do this. I don't really care what you have to say. Introverts, as you know, Samya, are reflective, can be deeply analytical, can really go through a big thought process and censor what they are saying, or they really wanted to get it perfect before they share. So, one way to engage is to ask a question, but not put people on the spot. So, present within whether it's your podcast or your speech, I'd love to hear how you feel about blank, or what was the last time you experienced blank? And say, I'm not going to make you answer right now, but we're going to come back to this, and give people a moment to kind of chew on it so they don't feel like the deer on the headlights, put on the spot in the moment. I think, too, regardless of if it's an introvert audience or an extrovert audience, um, get people engaged by participating, whether it's getting up with you and doing some sort of movement, or doing the show of hands when it is something that you really do care about, something that's a small gesture, but it's not a big ask where you're pulling somebody up on stage. That's something where you've got to feel the audience out. And I'm sure, John, you've dealt with this as well also, that if you have an interactive speech, I love pulling people on stage. I love involving them in what I'm talking about, but you don't want to force the person who's got their head over here and is, got their program in front of their face. Don't drag that person out. Don't try to get them to evolve out of their shell in the 5 seconds that you're doing an activity there. And I think doing pre-research is also key, as for an introvert audience. This is true for any audience, but research your audience and know what they want from you, know what they're really interested in. Because if you know what's going to engage them that day, if you do all that work ahead of time, when you throw out that question or you do that activity, it's going to be that light bulb going off saying, oh, wow, Samia really thought about the value that she's going to bring here, and somebody's going to be more likely to participate. Anything that you like to throw in, John, that you want to add?
Yeah, I think, what came up for me as you were speaking and as Samya asked the question was when I was so I was giving a presentation. It was very early on in my, professional speaking career, and a woman had asked me to come to do a keynote for, not really keynote, like but more of a training session for
Sure.
her high level sales team down. It was down in Florida, and I was kind of throwing these stories and just doing all this just really quick. And what happened was no one was responding, and I said, "No, that was funny." I
Mm.
just they just were not engaged. So at the end of it, I just thought I just totally missed it, just totally missed the mark. And for the next 10 years, I said I will never do that. I will do exactly what you said, Christy. I'm going to make sure I'm prepared. I'll make sure my
Mhm.
notes are this way. I want to, and I really went hard on it. And then I get a call from the same woman 10 years later who found my new address and said, I just switched companies. Would you please come down and do that same exact presentation you did for my group 10 years ago? I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, that was like the
I
worst
thought they hated it.
for 10 years. Was it? So I mustered up the courage, after when I said, of course I said yes. I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to redeem myself. Um, and so I asked her the question, and I said, I thought I really was just missed it right for the
Yeah.
last group. She said, no, those folks you were so far ahead of them that they were just trying to catch up to where you were.
Yes.
And it was in that moment right there that I realized you have to slow down, because in your head the
Yes.
story's done. It's already gone. So you gotta chunk the story up. And so I would say, to you, Samya, is that slow your stories down, because people really do want to
Yes.
hear what you have to say. And go detailed into the story. Paint the picture, paint the vision.
Yes.
The only reason I use PowerPoint slides, you can attest to this, Christy, because you saw it, is really to accent the point that I'm trying to make, because some people are visual learners. So you're thinking about the
Mhm.
entirety of the audience. And so I'll slow it down, because when I tell the story, sometimes I have to make like a 5-second pause when I do my break, and I say, what do you think about this? And people
Mhm.
are freaked out on my story. They're like, oh, what just happened? And so I have to give them that space. That's why I don't do it first. I played around with that, right? Do I put the story up front? Do I put it in the middle? Do I put it towards the end? I got to
Yeah.
give people space to actually go deep with me on this journey, because it's really not about my journey. It's about their journey, and they're going to do some work,
Yes.
whether they know it or not. So it took me a long time to understand that. So I would say, Soumya, give people the grace and space to just to give them the chance to breathe, to have oxygen into
Yes.
their
To
environment. What do you think about
digest it.
that? Yeah, to digest it,
Yeah.
right? Yes.
I love
Yeah.
that, John.
So Soumya says,
Samya, you're a
I
rock
love
star. I love all this.
he's rocking. Then she says, I was just asked that question. And so we have Patrick now. We'll get ready to be in the slow. It says,
Yeah.
"Thank you so much for this morning. Wonderful time sharing." Thank you, Patrick, for sharing
Thank
that.
you,
Yeah,
Patrick.
Christy's such a rock star, and I knew it was going to be just great for all of you out there. I have these. I was as you were speaking, I was writing down some questions. I'm always
Yeah.
trying to multitask, listen to what you're saying, and then write down. I have like these five questions I want to ask you really quick. They're
Please.
just we'll put it up there. And this is no particular order, but and really quick answers. You don't have to be fast at
Okay.
all. Just kind of yes or no. Okay, favorite movie snack?
Ooh, popcorn hands. I mean, that's my favorite snack,
Butter,
period.
butter, no butter. Butter, no butter.
I
Salt,
do a
butter,
little bit of olive oil and sea salt,
olive. Okay, that's good. I've had
and
that
sometimes
before
some
too.
melted Parmesan cheese
Okay, all right. Well, I'm
if I
I'm
want to
like
be
all about the
fancy.
butter. I'm like half and
Yeah.
half layered butter. Just pour it
Oh
on there.
yeah. At the
Uh,
theater, I'll do that. Movie theater,
at the
just
theater.
pump it on.
Best hangout place.
Ooh. Okay, this is a funny answer, but I grew up figure skating. So if I just want to like zone out, mellow out, I'll just put on some skates. And it's really hot in Arizona. So it's like a great place to go when you need some cool.
Because
So hanging out at the ice
there's a
skating
lot of
rink,
ice out there at 108 degrees.
gosh, or 121 we had last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oof. Yeah. Yeah, no. So, so this is the next one. Water, snow, desert.
Ooh.
Which one?
I
Water,
live
snow,
in
or
a
desert?
desert. But I'm gonna say snow, and maybe it's because I don't have a lot of it
You live
around
in the
me, but I
desert.
love. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna come visit you in Colorado and
In
get
Colorado,
my
come on to
dose of
Colorado.
snow.
Except it was 93 the other day in Colorado.
Well,
So
I know. Yeah, well, come wintertime, make sure I get
come
a little.
wintertime. Um, worst advice that you've been given.
Ah,
Worst advice. You don't have to say who.
gosh. Well, no, I wrote about this the other day. I had it when I first started my career. I had a TV agent that didn't even like look at my reel, didn't even talk to me or see what my intellect or thoughts or creativity was like. He just said, "Well, there's a lot of perky blonde people in this industry. Like, good luck. Like, just kind of there's no chance for you because you're the same as everybody else."
Oh my
And
gosh.
thankfully I didn't listen to that.
That just got me to another question, but I'm not going to go there right
Yeah.
now because it's on military and how I coach speakers to become more
Ooh, I'm fascinated
individualistic.
about that.
Um, the best advice. So take the opposite side. The best advice.
Best advice. I'm going to give a shout out to my mom here. She says you can't do anything before it's your time. And I think it's so true in life. We can get in a place of anxiousness and wanting, why isn't this happening in my life yet, or why isn't this quite the right way? And you just got to trust the timing of your life that things unfold and happen for you when it's the right time. Mom's very wise, and dad,
That's
but
very
that's mom.
wise.
That was mom's quote there.
Yeah, it's Dad's Day coming up. Father's Day is coming up.
I know. I got to give a shout out to dad too.
Shout out.
Happy early
Uh,
Father's Day to you, John.
oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I just enjoy the time as dad. I have the picture back up here because I just want to say thank you so much for being on with us today. You've offered
Thank
such a
you.
wealth of information and knowledge, and I really do appreciate,
Thank
you
you,
taking
John.
time out of your schedule. I know you're very busy, and just to share with our community. So yeah, so thank you. How do people find you, and what are some of your closing words?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's you're a delight. You meet some people in life that you feel the energy and you feel they're doing good, and you are one of those people. So thank you
Oh,
for welcoming me into your space. And yes, I'd love to help introverts, or if you're the crazy extrovert in the room, I've got help for you as well. My name, Kristy Siefkin, which you can see on the screen right now. Just KristySiefkin.com is my website. And if you go check out the link that John posted today for today's episode, you can just click on that. And happy to talk to you about helping you individually, helping your team, and just parting words for those who are scared or intimidated to get on the stage, to speak in front of a camera. All of us, John, myself, anybody who even does this as a job, started from a place where it felt icky, it felt uncomfortable. You watched the video of yourself and thought, no, I shouldn't even try anymore. So keep at it. Don't give up. You know, happy to be your coach, or find a coach, someone in your life that can help to rally you, keep you engaged, keep you supported. You can do it, and this is the prime time to develop yourself as a brand in this media space. So jump on it and don't miss that opportunity. And I hope you'll have
Love
me
that.
back one day, John, so we can
Absolutely,
talk
for sure.
all sorts of other wonderful and
Oh, I
things and silliness.
absolutely. It's going to happen. You are forever now in the circle. So we
Well,
got you.
thank you. I am
And thank you
honored for
for me
that. Thank
being
you
in
for having
yours.
me.
Yeah, you're just wonderful, and I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you
What a
so much.
great show, everybody! Oh my gosh, that was fantastic. Kristy Siefkin has just blown us away with her brilliance in the media space, and that's why we have individuals on shows like this to encourage us. She's talked about some of the hurdles that were in her life and how she overcame some of those things, and as well as we started off the show by talking about how blood leads the headline, but we can also change the narrative of the story and make the story, for our audience and how we want to elevate. I always do a little bit of news jacking, so that's one of the things how I get things out, and I'll just jump on the tail end of a news cycle and try to get my messaging in there so I can actually elevate the conversation from such a standpoint. So this show is all about elevating and helping people hurdle their adversity. If you want to catch Kristy, of course you have her information out there. And Samya says she's always out there. Happy Father's Day, John. Thank you so much for that, Samya. I appreciate that. I really do. And to your husband as well. Happy Father's Day to him. Um, so just to remind you that we should be on next week, I think, or the week after next, with another fascinating guest, and I always invite you to continue to go forth, inspire your world. Why? Because go is your command, forth is your direction, inspire, that's your vocation, because only you can do this work and world. It's your sphere of influence. My name is John Register. Go forth, inspire your world, and we'll talk to you a little bit later. Bye for now.